Hi everyone, Brad Drew here. Hey, I got my 12 Pro Max the other day and I've been having a blast with it. We had a great sunny day with a little bit of nice sky yesterday, and I went out to one of my favorite locations here in Indianapolis, Crown Hill Cemetery, and made some images, and I wanted to share with you some of the things that I'm finding pretty exciting about this. So one of the new features with the new phone is something called ProRAW, which is, as near as I understand it, it's Apple's new RAW format, and it's only available with the new iOS 14.3.2, and right now that is still in beta, so it's not widely available. I actually have a beta copy installed, and once you install that beta copy, it enables the ProRAW feature to work. So a couple of things about that. The ProRAW the new operating system is supposed to be available, they said end of year. So whenever that is, you decide. I don't know if that means any minute or if that means end of December, but coming soon anyway. And once that is installed, it enables the ability to turn on ProRAW. So a couple things. You have to go into your settings and scroll down to your camera settings right here, and go to Formats, and you'll notice that you have the option to select Apple ProRAW. And you can read a little bit about it there. It's a 12-bit file that uses a linear DNG, a lot of technical things that are beyond me, but what I can tell you is the results are amazing. And each file is about 25 megabytes, so much larger than our traditional files that we're getting from other cameras on the phone. So once you turn that on, and then you go to your native camera, a little gray icon up in the upper left, you'll notice that, let me take off my filter. There we go. So here we are in the interface, and you'll notice up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a button up there that says RAW, and it's got a line through it. When I tap on that button, I turn on the RAW capability. Until you have the new iOS installed, that RAW button will not appear. So again, that's coming sometime soon, and I'm glad to be able to have it and be able to play with it now and share some things that I'm learning. So with that button on, you take your shot. And what I want to show you is what I've been getting with that. So one of the images that I want to look at is this one right here. I took this yesterday with the native camera on the new 12 Pro Max, and you'll notice up in the upper left-hand corner, it tells us it's a RAW image. So it's just like other images in the phone, like if you take a portrait or a live shot or a live mode shot or whatever, it will tell you up in the upper corner what it is. In this case, it's showing us that this is a RAW file. So to process a RAW file, it doesn't look bad, but you can see it's a little flat. It doesn't have a lot of oomph to it. So, but that's the benefit of this RAW file. It's got data in there that we can mine and really pull out the details in blacks and highlights and just improve the image overall. So to do that, though, you have to have a RAW processor of some kind. And there are RAW processors available. I mean, SnapSeed has a RAW processor. There's one called ProRAW. And they're okay, but they're kind of wimpy in compared to what I think is the best available, and that is the Lightroom RAW editor that comes with the Lightroom Mobile. Now, if you subscribe to the Creative Cloud already and you get Lightroom and Photoshop on your desktop, the Lightroom mobile app is included in your subscription. If you don't have a subscription and you don't want to pay for one, you can still download the Lightroom mobile camera and editor to your iPhone or Android phone for free. It's not the full version. There are 3 tools that you're going to be missing, but they're tools you can live without, and you can find them in other apps like SnapSeed to do those jobs. So I encourage you, if you don't have it, go ahead and install it on your phone and begin to use it. So what I want to show you here is how I processed this image. So I'm going to go to Lightroom, and I'm in my Lightroom library right now, and I'm down at the bottom. You see a blue little oval shaped thing with two icons in it. I'm going to tap on the left icon there, and that is allows me to choose to see my images in the camera roll. So I'm going to tap from camera roll, and it's taking me out to all my images in the camera roll. So I'm going to scroll down to this image that I took yesterday, and it's this one right here, and I'm going to tap on it. Well, I'm going to tap on it, and it brings it right into the mobile editor. Now, if I tap on, before I start editing, I'm going to show you, if you go up to the edit button up at the top and tap on that, you can choose info. And down here, you'll see the metadata, the info on this image. You'll see it tells us that it's a DNG file, and it's Apple Pro 12 iPhone 12 Pro Max. And then it tells us that it's about a 12 megapixel image. And so on, and it shows you the settings at which it was shot. Now, the thing that I'm still unclear about, I'm trying to understand, the ProRAW is a new RAW format. Even though I've opened this image in Lightroom, I don't know that Lightroom has yet been changed in any way to accommodate specifically that ProRAW format, but it still recognizes it as a RAW file, and you can process the heck out of it and really get a good result. That may improve over time if Adobe makes any changes to accommodate that ProRAW format. So I'm going to switch back to editor. So now we're looking at this image in the Lightroom editor. Now you notice the RAW file kind of doesn't look very good. It's dark. It's not got the dynamic range is just not there. So what we're going to do is process it with about 6 steps in this RAW editor. The first thing I'm going to do is go down to the bottom. You see all your tools across here, and I'm going to tap the auto button first. And look at the difference, just that one adjustment, and it's making a bunch of exposure adjustments for us that we can come back and tweak in a minute. But look how close it gets us to where we want to be. The next thing I'm going to do is go over to Effects. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to move my texture up, and you can zoom in and watch what's happening in the image, maybe about 50% or so, and then clarity maybe 20-30%. A little clarity goes a long way. And then dehaze, I'm not going to use any dehaze on this one. Sometimes when you have a nice blue sky, it'll do some nice things there, but I'm going to leave that alone right now. And then the next thing I'm going to do is go over to details down here on the bottom. Tap on that, and this is where I'm going to do my sharpening, and I'm going to set my sharpening. The maximum you can go is 150 here, and I'm going to probably take it down to about 135, bring my radius all the way up, details down, and masking up. And so what's happening, this is a smart tool in that it knows where to sharpen and where not to sharpen, and that masking effect is preventing things like the sky and so on from being sharpened. Now, one of the things that I often do in Lightroom is I'll zoom in on my sky. Like, let's zoom way in on this. And I look to see if I have any noise, because if I do, I've got a slider down here. But look at how clean that is. I'm not seeing any noise at all. Normally, on a RAW file like this, if I zoomed in that far, you would see all kinds of noise in that sky, and a little bit of noise reduction can help eliminate that. But I don't even need to use that tool on this. So I'm going to leave it alone at that. And the next thing I'm going to do is go to Optics down here in the bottom. And this is kind of a default thing. I always turn these on. Sometimes I'm using accessory lenses, or even the ultra wide lens that comes with the iPhone. You can get some distortion, and this will it'll correct some of that. I don't see a whole lot of effect in this one, but I always turn them on. The next thing that I'm going to do is to go over to color, and I think this is the coolest tool in all of the Lightroom editor, and I often use it on just regular JPEG files too, because it's so powerful. I'm going to tap on the colored button here, and the color tool has 3 layers to it. What we're looking at right now is the top, or the first layer, and this is the global editing layer. So if I increase my saturation, it's affecting every color in the image globally. You can do that with saturation as well, and vibrance and so on. Sometimes that's all you may want to do, is just bump your saturation just a little bit to bring your colors up, and you may call it a day. But what I'm going to do is reset these to 0, and I'm going to go to the next level within the color management tool. So I'm going to tap on the mix button up in the upper right here, and now I can selectively choose which colors I want to adjust. So let's say I wanted to adjust the yellow in the image. So I'll tap on the yellow icon there, and then I'm going to bring my saturation up, and it's only saturating the yellow. It's only affecting luminance in the yellow in the image. Is that cool or what? I mean, it just gives you so much control. You can do that with any of these colors in the spectrum. Let's say you wanted to increase the sky in color, so you can play with that, drop your luminance down, and you've now adjusted your sky. So you have some very targeted adjustments you can do. But the third layer is even, I think, cooler. So I'm going to tap on this button right here again, and now I'm in the third level of the color management tool. Down below, you'll notice you can adjust hue, saturation, and luminance. You want to make sure that you tap on saturation or luminance, because if you tap on hue and start sliding your finger around on the screen, you're going to start making all kinds of wacky changes, which I do all the time. So just be prepared for that to happen. But I'm going to tap on saturation, and now I can take my finger anywhere on the screen, and it's going to adjust the colors under my finger. So watch, I'm going to go up here in the sky, drag to the right, and look down below. You can see the color icons. You can see the values changing as I slide my finger back and forth. So I've just brought up the color in 2 different shades of blue just by dragging my finger across the sky. I can also come down into the area down here, and this is going to bring the orange and the reds up, and there's a little bit of magenta in the shade here. So you can begin to play with those selective areas in the image. Here, up here at the top in this tree, there's some red. As I drag, it's affecting the red and the magenta. Got that? So you just have so much control. To get out of this, I'm going to back out by tapping that button, tapping done, and now I'm back into where all my editing tools are. And if I wanted, I could maybe just look at my vibrance here a little bit and play with that. And that's it. And then the next thing, after doing color, I'm going to go to the light adjuster. Now, we already tapped on auto, so if we look at the adjustments that are here, all of these slider adjustments were the result of tapping the auto button in the beginning. But we don't have to live with that if we don't want to. You notice the histogram up in the top, and I noticed that the blacks are really clipping on the left, and so that means this tombstone over here is still kind of dark. So I might want to lighten that up. So I could come down here and I could lift my blacks a little bit and see how you can see the histogram shifting off of the clipping, and it's lightening my shadows. And so I may want to do that. So you've got a lot of creative control here on how you determine your image is going to look in the end. You can drop your exposure value a little bit for a little more drama, just a lot of things like that. Once you're there, you can be done. And I'm going to go ahead and click the share icon, which is this little standard share icon right up here at the top. And now I'm ready to save this image to my camera roll. Before you tap the export to camera roll button, you want to make sure you have your settings right. So I'm going to go in and tap on these sliders here, this little slider icon on the right, and it takes us into the export settings. So here's where we're going to tell Lightroom how to save this image to our camera roll. So you'll notice the first option here is file type, and I usually choose at this point a JPEG or a TIFF. I don't see the value in DNG anymore. We've already mined the goodness out of that DNG file, and so I'm happy with the JPEG or a RAW. The other thing that you want to look at is your light, your dimensions here. So you want to have the largest available dimensions to maintain the resolution of your file. And then down here, image quality, you want to make sure that's set to 100%. Now here's a little tip that I learned the hard way. Whenever Adobe pushes an update through on the App Store, it often resets these export settings, and sometimes it will down-res the image quality to 80%. I don't know why that happens, but I've gotten in the habit of Whenever I update Lightroom, I go in and check these settings to make sure that they have retained their value, or I reset them. Now, when you exit this, you want to make sure that you hit the check mark and not the X. If you hit the X, it will not save your changes. So you want to hit the check mark on the right, and now you have set those changes. And it's a sticky setting. You don't have to set this every time. I only recommend checking after an update to the software. So now I'm going to tap Export to Camera Roll, and it's rendering and it's done, and now it tells us at the bottom in green there that it was successful. So let's go out and look at the image in the camera roll. There it is, right there. So there's our image, and I think it looks great, but I noticed that I've got some keystoning going on with the tree on the right and the tombstone on the right kind of leaning into the image. And I could have fixed that in Lightroom with a tool called Geometry, but because that is one of the 3 tools that is not available if you have the free version of Lightroom, I wanted to show you how to fix that in SnapSeed. So I'm going to copy this image, and to do that I'm in the camera roll, I'm going to hold my finger on the icon, and I'm going to copy that image to the clipboard, and now I'm going to go to SnapSeed, hold my finger down, and paste the image into SnapSeed. Now it's telling me I had an image in there that I hadn't saved, and I'm just going to say go ahead and open the new one. That's okay. So there's our image, and I'm in Snapseed. The first thing I'm going to do is see if I can correct that keystoning, and I'm going to tap on my tools, and I'm going to use the tool called Perspective. Open it up, and I'm going to choose this freeform tool, and I'm going to grab this corner over here and just drag it around. And what's happening when I do this, you notice, let me just do this again, as I pull the screen in, see the black triangle in the lower right. When I release my finger, it's using content aware technology to fill that in. And I'm going to pull that out a little bit, something like that. So it's a really cool tool for fixing this kind of problem. I'm going to go ahead now and click the check mark at the bottom to commit to that change. Now I'm going to go into Tune Image, and I'm just going to go down and take a look at ambiance and see what it does to the image. So, sorry, I'm going to slide my finger across on ambiance, and look at how it's raising the values in the tones in the bottom and the brightness and so on. There's before. That's what it was when we finished in Lightroom, and there's what we just did in Snapseed. Personally, I kind of like that. I'm going to go ahead and commit to that, but then I'm also going to go back in here. I'm going to choose Tune Image again, and I'm going to go down to Shadows. I want to see more of the detail in that tombstone, so I'm going to bring my shadows up. Notice as I bring my shadows up, I can start to see some of the detail in that tombstone on the right, but I don't want to lift the shadows everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and commit to all the changes globally, but now I'm going to go into the history button up at the top. That's that little square with the arrow over it. Tap on that, go to View Edits, and I'm going to select Tune Image, and I'm going to choose the brush here in the center, which is our masking tool. I'm going to zoom way in on this, and I'm going to tell Snapseed, hey, apply that brightening just to this tombstone and leave all the other shadows dark and the way they are. Now I'm using my finger to do that. You can use a stylus. The little button down here at the bottom looks like an eyeball. If I tap that, it shows us where we've been, which is really useful and can help us, get into the lines there and everything. You can zoom way in on this and be very, very precise, use a stylus and all that. If I turn it off, you can see what it looks like. I'm going to commit to it, and now there is the image with that tombstone lightened. And if you just want to see the effect of that last adjustment, tap on the adjustment below it. So I'm going to tap down on the Tune Image icon or Tune Image layer below the one that's blue, and it turns it off effectively. So now I can toggle back and forth. There's with the change, look at the tombstone, and there's without the change, there's with the change. So very detailed little changes that you can make with this. We could be done, but one of the things that I like to do in Snapseed is to add a little bit of a glow. So I'm going to go to Glamour Glow here in the center of the screen, tap on that, and you'll notice it defaults to whatever I think that I used last, which was a 50% glow. It looks a little too much. There's before the glow and there's after. I'm going to drop it down to about, oops, other way, drop it down to about 25% by moving my finger to the left, and there's before and there's after. So it's got just a tiny bit of glow, and I think really accentuates the image in a pleasing way. I'll go ahead and hit the commit button there, or the check mark, and now I'm going to save the image. I'm going to save a copy, which is what I always do. It retains the layers that you've created in the image, and you can reopen it and re-edit those if you wish, if you do a save a copy. There it is, successfully saved. Let's go out and look at the camera roll, and there's our image, and pretty awesome. This is just the beginning of what I think we're going to see with this new tool, this new phone. It's just amazing. Look for the new iOS to come out sometime in the next couple of weeks, I hope. Sooner the better. And in the meantime, I hope to have more information out soon about how this is affecting our ability to shoot infrared with the iPhone. Just very quickly, let me just show you one of the quick results that I got the other day doing this. Let me see here. So this is an image that I shot with handheld with a 52 millimeter filter, 720 nanometer infrared filter. And I mean, you just get these incredible, look how sharp and beautiful that is in the sky. The clouds are creamy. Now this is, infrared's going to look a lot better when I'm in Indiana, so we don't have a lot of green left. But the green is what really makes an infrared image exciting. So I may have to fly to Florida or Cuba or San Diego or something to find some green. But just a lot of fun doing that. Here's another one from yesterday that I did that I just love it. You got this great blacks and beautiful whites, and all this is infrared on the iPhone. It's hard to imagine that we would ever have been, dreamed that we would do this. But stay tuned for more about that. Please take a look at my my Linktree link that's in the up in the description here in YouTube, and that link will take you to, it's a link that shows you all of the other links that I have out there, so you can subscribe to my newsletter. You can look at any other bunch of stuff that I have. So if you're interested in following what's going on with any of this stuff and want to be informed, please sign up for my newsletter, and just anything else on there, give me a call, send me an email, ask me questions. I love doing this. I'm having a blast with it, and I look forward to talking with you in the future. And until next time, have fun, keep on creating, and have a great Thanksgiving holiday, however you choose to celebrate it. And just be safe and stay well, and I'll see you next time.